Well, that was Mr. Taiwo Oyedele-Led. We're going to explore some of the things he said, and not just that part you heard, but the full interview. And to help us do that is Dr. Muda Yusuf. We know him as a regular on the program, the Chief Executive Officer of CPPE. Good morning, Dr. Yusuf. Thank you so much for your time this morning.
Good morning, Ine.
So I guess
my pleasure.
Great to have you. So I guess the most obvious thing that Mr. Oyedele said there is that the FRSC should be the sole collector of taxes. How do you see this working, and what are your immediate thoughts on this proposal?
Well, the whole concept, I think, is a very good one. To ensure efficiency in tax administration and to, reduce the level of leakages. I think from that point of view, it is good. But we need to also be careful so that we don't underestimate the challenges involved. Because the expertise of Federal Inland Revenue Service is on taxation. Now we are now veering into non-tax revenue collection, which requires a different kind of skill sets or competencies. For instance, if you throw an FRS person into the Nigerian Customs Service, how will he or she understand the processes of classification of HS code, the process of valuation of imports, the risk assessment reports, and all of that. The same thing in oil and gas, the same thing in aviation. You need special expertise and understanding of those sectors to be able to know exactly what the shape or structure of revenue should be. Because they are still want to issue invoices and things like that. So we need to figure out properly how these things are. Non-tax revenue is completely different from pure tax revenue. I mean, for a tax revenue, the FRSC can come to your office, examine your books, look at your expenses and all of that. But it's a completely different story when you are talking about non-tax revenue. And in any event, you already have the TSA, the Treasury Single Account. And the whole essence of the TSA is to consolidate the revenue inflows from all agencies of government. Of course, they have been pushed back in terms of non-compliance and all of that. I think this whole initiative can leverage on the TSA initiative so that we are not reinventing the way. Let us see how we can pull all these resources together. It doesn't matter what name you call it. You can say it is FRS, you can say it is TSA, whatever it is. Because the way it is sounding is as if you are going to deploy FRS officials to over 60 agencies to go and be collecting revenue. This is an age of technology. So I don't see people going around saying they are revenue collectors. You should not have a structure driven by technology so that whatever revenue is coming, you go directly into whatever account is designated by government. Okay, so I think we should just improve on this TSA rather than reinventing the wheel all over again.
Okay, Dr. Yusuf, so it seems you are saying let the FIRS focus on the tax collection and then the MDAs focus on the non-tax. But what about if you look at it, perhaps the FIRS maybe having a department or unit that also focuses on the non-tax collection? I mean, with the help of technology, as you have said.
There's nothing wrong with that. What I'm saying is that for you to understand the revenue structure, you must understand the system. If you go to an IMASA now, you go to MP or you go to Civil Aviation Authority, who is issuing the invoice? Who evaluates how much actually should come in? What I'm saying is that they already have a structure of invoicing, of evaluating import duty and all of that. What is important is to have a channel, technologically driven, where all these revenues will be flowing to seamlessly. And to complement that, we can have quality framework for periodic audit to ensure that what is coming in is what is actually coming in. And we also need to situate this within the operational modalities of each of these agencies. quite a number of them fund their operations from their own revenue. It is the surplus that they remit. So if we say that all the revenue should go first into FRS, then all of them will have to submit budgets to the National Assembly, then be subjected to another rigorous bureaucracy of how to fund, get money approved, and so on and so forth. This may have some other implications. And of course, there are also legislative issues. There are legal issues. Many of these agencies have legal instruments that guide their operations across the entire spectrum of their operations, whether it is funding, whether it is revenue. So all of these things also needs to be taken into account. So just as I said, the principle is fine, but we should not underestimate what it takes, to begin to, pull all of these things together and say they are putting them in a common pool. I think we should use technology. We should look at the TSA principle. If there are gaps there, we should have a system of periodic audits so that people remit what they are supposed to remit. Because what you have had in the past is that the political will to compel these MDAs who are generating non-tax revenue to remit to government, the political will has not been there. We know what happened in the last National Assembly, where even the Senate President, the leadership of National Assembly were crying that these MDAs were not forthcoming. They were not remitting. Some of them don't have accounts. They don't respond to audits. So these are some of the discipline we need to bring into the space. Those things for me are much more critical than having an entirely new structure as to how to channel the revenue.
And I
the
guess
discipline of compliance is very key.
I guess this will also affect the cost of collection. He did say that Nigeria has one of the highest cost of collection. Meanwhile, what we are collecting is not as high as many countries.
Well, I don't quite understand what he meant by cost of collection. If you have a revenue coming to customs, there's a technology in place as to where the revenue should go. If it goes to the designated account, it hits the account of FRS. What has been happening is that in the chain, there are all manner of compromises that takes place. And even some of these costs of collection, these are some of them that are even approved by government itself. FRS has a percentage of how much it takes from the amount of revenue collected. The customs also has a percentage of how much it takes. These are regulatory issues. These are things that were approved by government or by relevant legislation as to the proportion of the revenue they generate that should go to them as cost of collection. So if you don't want that again, you can just remove those legislation and allow all the revenue to go into the common pool. So we need to look at these things thoroughly, and we also need to engage stakeholders in a very robust way so that we don't disrupt the activities of some of these agencies. And more importantly, we need to ensure discipline among the MDAs, to ensure compliance, to ensure full disclosure, and to ensure that they keep to the financial rules that guide them. What we have seen in the past, that the level of discipline is extremely weak, because most of those agencies are also being manned by very politically influential people. So there's no transparency. So we can do a lot more of that. We can have a lot more audit, financial audit, forensic audit.
So I wonder
those are the things that I think are missing.
So I wonder if this responsibility of the audit and ensuring transparency, does it fall on the shoulder of the committee?
No. You see, well, it is part of the general issue of governance. There are some agencies that have not prepared financial statements for 2, 3, 4, 5 years. There are some of them that have not been responding to audit reports, audit queries. Some of them don't even keep accounts. There's no proper audit. These are gaps in the governance space, which I think is part of, because you talked about fiscal governance. These are gaps. So we need to institute structures to make sure that that happens as a matter of course, not necessarily being driven by FRS. But they should know that these are statutory responsibilities of agencies. Your accounts must be audited. At least you have to report your revenue and everything will have to be properly supervised by the necessary agencies of government. I think this is what the fiscal governance thing is all about. So I don't think we can centralize that. What is important is to ensure that the governance framework is such that people comply with statutory provisions. And if there is no compliance, then there has to be consequences. In the past, there has been no consequences. National Assembly will invite some of them for hearing. They will not come. They will not present their budget. And they just move on like that, and nothing happens. So these are some of the things we need to address.
And these are some of the things that are chipping off the trust of taxpayers, and why we keep having the issue of a lot of people are, reluctant to pay their taxes, and widening the tax gap that he also referred to.
Of course, I agree with you. I mean, there is some issue of morality around even tax compliance. When you do everything practically on your own, you engage security, you dig borehole for your water, you generate your own electricity, you pay for practically everything.
Well, seems a little bit of hitch there with the network with Dr. Muda Yusuf. Dr. Yusuf, are you back? Can you hear me?
I think.
Can you hear me, Dr. Yusuf?
Yes, I can hear you.
Okay, go ahead.
I can hear you.
Yeah, you were frozen.
Yes. So I'm saying that these are some of the things that we need to ensure, because in order to elicit compliance, the government also needs to give back to the people. I mean, if you have a situation where you practically pay for everything, you pay for your education, you pay for your health services, you pay for security, you pay for your water, you pay. Then if you are relating with any agency of government, you are also compelled to pay, in addition to the mainstream taxation. So I'm hoping that these are some of the things that will be streamlined, because part of the mandate of the committee is also to look at all this multiplicity of taxation. There's hardly any private sector organization or business, once you are interacting with any agency of government, you have to pay them for the service. In addition to that, you also pay your normal tax. So all these burdens are a lot on the citizens. And I'm hoping that, this is also part of the thing, because the mandate is quite wide. I mean, the task is a bit ambitious. So, but the whole spirit is fine. I mean, I hope that we get something concrete at the end of the day from the whole exercise.
Yes, because we know Mr. Oyedele, he's been advocating for this tax reform for many years. We have a lot of visuals of him. So, I mean, if he doesn't do well or is not effective, then, journalists will come after him. Just before we let you go, Dr. Yusuf, so he also talked about, some taxes that will be dropped. That will be, to reduce the burden. And of course, that gives a lot of businesses joy and anticipation of better days to come. But do you see that being realistic at a time when the country is looking for revenue like everywhere and trying to avoid borrowing?
Hello, Ini.
Okay, can you hear me now?
Yes, I can hear you.
Okay, so he did talk about some taxes that will be dropped from the tax list, not necessarily increasing the taxes to be collected and reducing some. I'm saying, do you see that as being realistic at a time when Nigeria is looking for revenue and looking for how to avoid borrowing? All right, seems we'll have to leave it there with Dr. Muda Yusuf. The network does not want. Dr. Yusuf, are you back?
They are not mutually exclusive.
Okay.
I mean, you should normally give concessions. You should normally give concessions to businesses. There is nothing wrong with that. After all, we are making a lot of savings now from the subsidy space. We are making a lot of money from the FX, foreign exchange convergence. And from this exercise, the efficiency of taxation is also likely to improve. That does not preclude, the need to also give tax incentives to deserving sectors of the economy. That is necessary, and those things are not mutually exclusive. It's also part of the mandate. There's a good facilitation objective. that has been given to the committee. And the way to facilitate growth is also to give incentives. So I think it's in order.
All right. Thank you so much, Dr. Muda Yusuf, for your thoughts this morning. Thank you and have a good day ahead.
Thank you very much, my friend.
Let's take a break now. When we come back, the Naira crashed yesterday, really crashed. 925 for $1. Very scary. But we'll talk about that and a whole lot more at the commodity space after this break.